Alright guys, we are back. Up next we have Where Are Rap Snitches Now? Shout out to Luaista for the video. It's crazy. There's been a few rap snitches that have managed to actually come back. Somebody like Gunna, who was able to kind of hunker down on music and really just focus, and not antagonize people like some other people that are probably on this list. But yeah, enough dilly-dallying. We're gonna jump right into the video. Again, it's Where Are Rap Snitches Now?
There's not many things worse that you can do for a rapper's career than to be caught telling. In a genre that's so intertwined,
even a rumor can mess things up
with street code, fans are quick to write off anyone who is discovered to be an informant and not living up to their lyrics about being a real OG who stands 10 toes down. Even if some of those listeners have only seen the hood from a telescope in the suburbs, they still aren't willing to listen to a rat. But what happens after these allegations?
Isn't that crazy? Like most of us are just regular citizens, but yeah, we do hold this so highly. Like if you do this, we won't listen to you. Obviously, it's been proven wrong because Gunna, like F You Mean, was obviously a major hit, But yeah, it's funny who we will soften our stance for.
Allegations surface, and is there any way back from it? My name is Luaista, and today we're gonna discuss what happens to rappers after they snitch. And if we're talking about rappers who turned into rats, we might as well start with one of the most notorious examples, Tekashi 6ix9ine. After a few years of trying to make it, a young Daniel Hernandez.
You see, he's the one that I would say did it the wrong way. You went antagonized and you basically alienated yourself from the entire industry. Not just them, but you mess with Bieber, that's Billboard's darling. So now any little tricks and little maneuvers that you could have did, like bundles, is pretty much washed away forever, at least for you, because you can't mess with you can't mess with the golden goose, fam. You cannot mess with the golden goose.
Hernandez had an idea for how he wanted his new video for his track Gummo to look. Now that he was rhyming with a harder edge to his lyrics, he needed some credentials to back it up. And as he was never a gang member, he found it through hiring the infamous 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods to appear in his video. Once this formula worked, 6ix9ine kept running with the gang and became a member. But rather than having to do dirt in the streets, Tekashi, who was now racking up a gang of Billboard hits, had one job for the gang. He simply had to keep making hits and giving financial support to the gang, as well as equipping them with guns.
Obviously, you gonna buy us some packs. We're gonna flip these packs. You get your money back, and we get the profit. Whatever the situation they may have, but of course, they're giving credibility to him as a gangster rapper. You're gonna have to kick back
so that he can get credibility and protection in return. Styled as the self-appointed king of New York, Tekashi provoked everyone to try and beef with him. And when he had the protection of the gang, he could do crazy things like the time he showed up to O Block in the middle of the night, since he knew that his brothers in the 9 Trey would have his back.
O Block right here?
Yeah, man, it is ballsy to go, especially with how but obviously he's covered up, got the hair showing. And he was notorious for showing up at taking a red-eye flight from New York to Chicago and showing up at 3 in the morning, being out there for a few minutes and then getting back into the car, you know what I mean? So yeah, you can only take that as yeah, you was out there, but you was out there and you made sure that people wouldn't be able to see you. So yeah, you can you can give him credit, I guess, for being there, but dude, he's there and no one's outside, obviously.
I should call this shit No Block. It's 10 o'clock. Where the fuck y'all niggas at?
All the while, he was becoming a huge star, collaborating with the likes of Nicki Minaj, Tory Lanez, and even Kanye West. But in November of 2018, Tekashi's world came crashing down after he was arrested alongside the 9 Trey Gangster Bloods on RICO charges. It was here where Tekashi was now facing 32 years in jail. Now, he had to decide, does he want to really stick with the tough image and do his time, or should he just work it out with the cops to get a lighter sentence? Well, he found out what he was gonna do the first night he was locked up.
First night I got locked up, I watched Lone Survivor, and I was like, I'm definitely snitching, right? and then, no, seriously. So from the jump, from the jump.
After all of that posturing, 6ix9ine was going to be out in a matter of months, but no one could understand how that would work. But when he first re-emerged, it seemed like he was about to pick right back up where he left off, as he broke the Instagram live viewing record in his first public appearance. However, when it came time for Tekashi to drop music, his sales literally halved. And rather than acknowledge it, he lashed out on the charts and claimed that he was being blackballed by the industry while other rappers were doing dirty work behind the scenes, such as buying their #1 singles.
Again, that's the whole bundle situation where like you sell a piece of merch and you get like a copy of the album with it, or now they do like download codes. They all do it. The trick is to get those bundles to count towards your sales. You basically have to use this one like merch company. I forget what the name is. You can Google it really quickly. Where there's this one company that basically has a monopoly on who can do these like merch drops to be counted as bundles, which is very profitable because who you think these labels, all these labels are going to the same people. You can't just use anybody and create your own T-shirt and put a download code on there and it counts. You know, it's honestly, yeah, it is like it kind of is. The game is skewed for like these people that have the machine behind them. Because who else can afford to do these type of deals? But like, it does suck because honestly, if that were the case, it would be kind of cool to see like some of these under independent acts and to see what kind of numbers they could put up if they can include bundles in their own projects too. There's a lot of these like fan bases with like a core following that would probably do pretty good numbers if all those were accounted for.
Although, it was really clear that the fanbase wasn't really buying it. 6ix9ine, numbers don't lie. Also 6ix9ine, the Billboard numbers are wrong. As most of hip-hop rejected him, he's been shot bail from the likes of Akon, who basically said that this was more commonplace than people made it out to be.
In jail,
So many people got paperwork.
80% of the motherfuckers that's locked up right now are all cooperating with the police. There's more snitches in jail than there are so-called real niggas. Everybody in that motherfucker done cooperated. If they can get time less the amount they was given, they telling, my nigga.
Even though he became accustomed to raking in tons of cash from concerts and hit songs, Tekashi ended up filing for bankruptcy in May of 2022. In the paperwork, 6ix9ine said, "Right now, I'm struggling to make ends meet. I do not know if I will ever command the kind of advances I was paid before my arrest, and my career stalled. If the court awards the compensatory and punitive damages sought by the plaintiffs at this inquest, it will surely bankrupt me in a way which I will never recover, to the permanent detriment of the family members who rely upon
Man, which attorney wrote that for him?
me." After trying to make a Latin album without even hitting the charts, Tekashi is basically just living on an infamy. From getting jumped in a gym to being arrested.
Dude, the same thing he did to the rappers, he did to the Latin dudes. The same exact thing. Like antagonizing to the point where they pretty much like alienate you. They exclude you from the whole scene. And now you're stuck making songs with people that kind of on the fringe and up and comers because those are the only people that will work with you because they'll pay, you know?
Arrested in the Dominican Republic on domestic violence
He
charges.
just got back
The
to the
headlines are
US.
about everything other than the music these days. But as Steve Will Do It from the Nelk Boys found out, he's still out here scamming people.
I am mad about that. It's alright. So I got him a deal, right? To play video games
With Rumble?
once a week for an hour.
Damn.
$2 million up front, and it just doesn't do anything.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's pretty much that simple. But it's the fact that he had no money at the time, and he needed money.
He looked out for him.
He breaks up
Facilitated
with
a
his
deal.
girlfriend, and he needs money. And like, dude, you see these videos of him giving away money and stuff. It's never his money. It's like when he gives his mom a car, it's him buying himself a car. Like he's not a nice person.
After all that's been said and done, Tekashi has gone from telling people that
It's crazy because also like what he'll do is he'll rack up these huge credit card bills. If you remember, he got sued by American Express for not paying his tab. Like, remember that video where he went and like bought all those chicks like Birkin bags? He basically put those all on the card and he used it as a way to like, it's like how the clout rappers and SoundCloud rappers will do it. They'll go into a mall and throw like $10,000 like off the second floor and people go crazy and that you go viral. Stuff like that goes viral. Him giving these Birkin bags gets a lot of engagement and goes viral, and they're hoping to like kickstart somewhat of their career, you know, by doing those type of things. And it didn't pan out that way for him. So now he just flakes out on the bill.
test his gangsta to being the poster boy for how falsified the culture can be by people like Logic.
It's very evident, right? I'm not talking shit. I'm just saying that he puts on this character, especially if you judge based off what he said in court. I ain't trying to fucking start beef with 6ix9ine. I'm just using an example.
I will say this from people that I've known that have worked with him and people that have had homies in like sessions. Supposedly he's really quiet. It's not till the cameras come on where that character comes out. Supposedly he's like soft spoken, up until like it's like shooting time.
That there are some rappers out there that are more about a persona and a personification, and because of that, when people shit on their music or shit on them, it doesn't matter because they're not really portraying who they are on the record.
Although his career is in a horrible state as of right now, at least 6ix9ine had a lengthy time at the top. Well, for Spot 'em Got 'em, his snitching allegations were so bad that rappers like Lil Dirk literally refunded him $100,000 for a verse he did, just because he didn't want to be affiliated with him anymore. Back in 2020, you couldn't escape Spot 'em Got 'em's breakout hit Beatbox. Considering it got remixed by basically half of the industry, it made it seem like this Florida rapper had a promising and successful career ahead of him. However, when news surfaced that he didn't even stutter in snitching on one of his own friends started emerging by media outlets, it really brought his whole thing down. Basically, the story is this. In June of 2020, Spot 'em Got 'em was caught with guns and marijuana at a Florida residence alongside YNR Mookie. Once the cops showed up, Spot 'em hastily gave his homie up, with claims that he was asleep when the cops initially arrived, and that Mookie was freaking out because he had a weapon on him. The facts are, Spot 'em told the police he saw Mookie with a gun and hinted that some pills weren't his, leading to Mookie's arrest while Spot 'em Got 'em got to leave. Ultimately, Mookie—
a mixture of dry snitching and actual snitching. This guy, man. You know what it is? His music wasn't good enough, man.
beat the case because the cops didn't file the right paperwork. While for Spot 'em Got 'em, it was time for damage control.
They're saying you snitched on YNR Mookie, and there's a lot of noise out there about it. Papers been leaked and all that, allegations flying around. What's your side of the story? Just let's set the record straight.
Nah, me and Mookie, we talked. It's some old shit. I don't know. Like I never seen it, but I seen it on the internet. I guess the police put whatever the allegations they put. But me and Mookie, we cool. That's my brother. I don't know how I got on the internet. Police put that shit up.
There's like I said,
then drop, and we both went to jail for like 21 days before it got out, and it was nothing after that. I never heard.
To make matters worse, even well-known enemies like Fulio and Young E and Ace could all agree on one thing, and that's the fact that the beatbox rapper was a rat.
This told on his homeboy. I never told on no. I had homeboys telling on me. I know how that feel. I never tell on no.
He'll tell on himself.
On you, boy. You tried me. Boy, die behind me. You tripping.
Try as he might, his career has never been the same since. And these days, he's predominantly in the news for all the wrong reasons, like the time he got shot and arrested. If all that didn't happen, things could have been so much different for him. At one point, Lil Dirk, whose own father is now behind bars after being snitched on, gave back $100K for a feature that he had already recorded and refused to let the track come out. For a lot of people, Dirk's ruling further solidified what people thought about him. But although they think that the Chicago rapper was right on this occasion, his decision not to work with Spot 'em Got 'em but record a verse for real Boston Richie has been seen as a little hypocritical.
Boston like snitched twice.
For those who don't know, Boston Richie is a Tallahassee rapper who is signed to Futures' Free Band's label, and he's had plenty of buzz in recent years. Despite only beginning to rap in 2021, Boston Richie's early tracks like Keep Dissing made an immediate splash. But before he could really build a major brand, his career was sent into a tailspin when news emerged that he cooperated with a 2013 police investigation, explaining his involvement with a stolen car alongside two
That's the thing, all it takes is a quick search. It's not like these records aren't public.
conspirators. The reactions were as expected, so Richie tried to tell his side of the story.
So we go to the TVD station, you know, I'm on some shit like, but them boy really ain't know the car was stolen. This my whip.
Yeah.
So like the police like took that from as in saying like, oh, me saying it was in the whip to me, they knew the car was acknowledged as being stolen, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But that was never the case, cause like...
On top of denying that it caused a strain on he and Future's relationship, he also suggested that the publicity was actually helpful to his career.
Shit, my number's up. I ain't gonna say all publicity, good publicity, but it's just like, shit, it's just sometimes it's just what it come with it, you feel me? Like,
yeah,
nigga can't be no great if a nigga can't recall you going through a certain situation.
Although he is
why does she look like she don't believe him and she's not interested in this interview at all?
Right in the sense that things haven't really stalled and he's still getting a lot of attention, it still hasn't completely gone away, and this isn't even the only time he's been accused of snitching. So videos like this ultimately haven't helped.
But then again, this is what I'm trying to tell you, like, I don't think he was like, but we know for a fact, the reason we know they hang, because Eddie gave him, his mama gave him.
Pointing the finger, man. Shit.
his the nigga Jarrell the gang members.
Once this video did the rounds, he proclaimed that he threw the cops off the scent with false information, but not everyone is so eager to accept this story, and fans did him dirty in the comments. He's doing a promo run for his next album, the Boston Plea Party. I'm not messing with anyone who talks to police for a whole hour. While he's still doing pretty well, it's hard to imagine he wouldn't be doing a little better if these allegations weren't hanging over his head. And this
bro, they didn't even have to like go in there and bribe him with like McDonald's or something. Like the dude just tattletale like with the quickness. He was offering up information at that point.
Since Richie received a favorable outcome. However, it's important to note that not everyone experiences such leniency. I mean, just look at what happened to Pohuna, a Philly rapper who was among the first rappers to really pop off on TikTok. Pohuna was off to a flying start with Corvette. Soon, he even had Lil Uzi Vert on the remix entitled Adderall. But just when things looked to be going so well, news emerged that back when he was 14 years old, he talked to the cops after his friend was killed. Once the paperwork was issued, the Philly MC was basically disowned by the game that he was just entering. And try as he might to defend his actions as that of a scared child, it felt like nobody wanted to hear it.
Man, I be wishing all the time that I never went through that shit, bro. Ain't no kid supposed to go through no shit like that, bro.
I agree. I agree. Like the dude was a child at that point, but these industries are unforgiving, man.
I was a kid, bro. Ain't no kid supposed to go through no shit like that, bro. I seen some shit that a kid wasn't supposed to see. And then, bro, I gotta live with that. Like, bro, that's gonna always be carrying trauma. Bro, I have to live with that shit. I don't even sleep, bro. I don't go to sleep at night, bro. I do not sleep, bro. Every time I close my eyes, bro, I see that shit happening over and over and over.
Nah, he's suffering from, like, I'm no doctor, but he seems like he's suffering from like some severe like PTSD, and honestly, I don't blame him after going through that as a kid.
And over.
Going through that as any age, honestly, would scar you.
And over again, bro. I barely even want to have fun, bro. Even being a rapper, bro. After shows and shit, bro, like I used to cry, bro. After every show, bro.
Although a screenshot went around claiming that Uzi asked to be taken off the remix, Pop says that never happened, but that he still got completely ghosted by him.
I started seeing a screenshot.
Right.
That it was Uzi saying to you like, yo, bro, I don't want to be on your tape no more. Please, could you take me off your tape because like you're telling on people.
Bro, let me explain something to you, right? Dude never said the shit, bro. He never ever said that.
So he never asked me to take off your tape.
Bro, that's the last messages right there, bro. He never said that, bro. Like, don't you think if he would have said some shit like that, it would have been in there? Since
you could have deleted it, or it could have just been that you got ghosted. And if you can't get like clearance, you probably don't put it out because you don't want to get sued, you know?
I wasn't saying since I wasn't saying anything about it.
Why didn't you say nothing? Like that's an easy lie to disprove. That shit was an indictment. I'm gonna be honest. When I saw that, and I said, "Oh shit!" Like Uzi's on the hottest song, and if he's asking not to have that song,
he never said that, bro. Like, bro, he never said a word to me about that. Like,
just ghosted
since
him.
That shit came out, bro, we ain't say nothing to each other.
While Pohuna had to lose a friend and then let go of his connection to Uzi, another of hip hop's most infamous snitches didn't hesitate to turn into an informant on one of his own, and that was Big Mike. A longtime member of O Block and brother of the infamous STL member Wooski, Big Mike caught a murder case when a young man named Malcolm Stuckey was shot at a party. According to reports, King Von had been at the event when things got tense, at which point he called Big Mike for backup. After the 19-year-old was murdered, Mike and Vaughn were eventually brought in for questioning, and knowing that there were so many witnesses at the party, Mike felt like he had no other option but to cooperate with law enforcement.
Once I got presented with what was going on and what it was, I knew the best way for me to get up out that, well, I didn't know. I thought the best way for me to get up out that shit was just tell them like shit. Them niggas shot at me first. Basically shit, one thing led to another shit.
You know, did the COs or other inmates give you troubles? You know, knowing...
Who, me?
Yeah.
Tell you, ain't no nigga play with me.
Intent on getting off as lightly as possible, Mike even offered to snitch on an additional killing just to help his case.
Crazy.
Defendants asked if it would be helpful for him if he gave the detective information about the shooting.
Robo went out of his way to snitch on this person.
And another murder. Despite his best efforts, Mike still received a hefty 28-year sentence, which likely came down to the fact that once it took time to take the stand, he refused to snitch on Vaughn. Although he was scheduled for nearly 3 decades of incarceration, Mike only ended up spending 9 years in prison. But somehow, he's still telling on Vaughn in his press run since emerging from jail.
Yeah, like we had a motive on why we was doing the shit we was doing. I would say he was no serial killer, but he will kill you.
Where no one would deny that what Mike did was snitching, one artist who has benefited from the gray area over what is telling and what isn't is Gunna. Just a couple of years ago,
yo man, Gunna came back a whole new person, man. People calling him clone and everything. The dude really like focused on music and his health, man. Give it up to him, man.
Gunna was unquestionably one of the most beloved figures in hip-hop. Known for working with the biggest names
was on
in the
shaky ground,
Gunna's
though.
career reached its peak with 2022's DS4 going #1. However, he didn't have much time for a victory lap, as soon he was jammed up in the RICO case against Young Thug and YSL as the Fulton County DA attempted to portray them as a violent street gang. Suddenly locked up, no one thought Gunna would turn on his mentor in Thugga, although he did have previous offenses, such as the time he appeared on CNN's Crime Stoppers as a teenager, but it was clear that he had no intention of spending years behind bars. Immediately, his lawyers insisted he wasn't about that life, saying, "There is no allegation that he committed any acts of violence. There is no allegation that he ever sold any drugs. There is no allegation that he ever committed any act relating to obstruction of justice or interfering with the administration of justice." Left with the option of staying in jail without bond or tasting freedom again, he chose to go for an Alford plea. For those who aren't familiar with this term, it's basically a guilty plea in which a defendant maintains their innocence, but they admit that the prosecution's evidence would likely result in a guilty verdict if brought to trial. With
semantics at that point, man. You're just flipping around a few words, man. They're basically synonyms of each other.
that, Gunna was back outside, and immediately he tried to get ahead of those inevitable snitching allegations, such as the time he said this to WSB-TV in a statement after the news broke. While I have agreed to always be truthful, I want to make it perfectly clear that I have not made any statements, have not been interviewed, have not cooperated, have not agreed to testify or be a witness for or against any party in the case, and have absolutely no intention of being involved in the trial process in any way. My focus of YSL was entertainment. Rap artists who wrote and performed music that exaggerated and glorified urban life in the black community. Try as he might, not everyone was buying it, and before long, longtime collaborators like Lil Baby and Lil Dirk had unfollowed him. Meanwhile,
yeah, of course, and a lot of people that still don't rock with him. If you look at his albums, really, his first one I didn't even think had any like features on there for the most part, and really the only producer that like stuck by him was Turbo. And Turbo ended up winning because that dude, how many hits came off that album? And he was basically the producer for the whole thing. And yeah, I want to say now it's kind of softened up. Like people thought he wouldn't be able to do a show in Atlanta, and he pulled it off, sold out in the arena out there. And it seems like to all the fanfare had Thugs Pops out there, you know, rocking. It seems like people are softening their stance. But yeah, I feel like that's a testament to him just locking in and just the music being undeniable. Like I say all the time, sometimes a lot of casuals are swayed just by the hit, you know? Oh, it's a fire record. We don't really care what you did. As long as he was smart, he didn't antagonize anybody. He just like put his head down and made music. It'll be interesting to see if like when Thug gets out, like the run that they could go on, because I feel like Thug gets out of this situation, dude, his fame gotta be on a whole another level. His like and the last project they dropped really for me wasn't really it, because it did sound like a bunch of half-finished songs that they pieced together to generate some revenue, you know? But him being out and going through all this stuff and then who knows, maybe linking up with Gunna, I feel like the run they would go on would be incredible, you know? But yeah, like Gunna actually played his hand pretty smart.
Leadership of the label like YSL Mondo couldn't believe what he had done.
Boy, you didn't supposed to do that, my brother. Even though I didn't be talking about it. Everybody who got common sense, everybody who's been in the streets, no, you did not. But you don't do no.
Based upon how angered people were by the idea that he betrayed.
The Alford plea doesn't. It's you're basically pleading now to guilty. It's just like semantics and changing some verbiage around.
Thugger, it really looked like there might be no way back for him. In fact, many OGs thought it was a wrap.
The film in court came out, and you know, of course his lawyer wrote that. He didn't write that. His lawyer probably wrote that. But now in these days, when you got the camera, it just look like, you know, they're gonna say, you pushing please. We ain't fucking with Gunna. Because, I mean, in this business, if you turn into a rat, it's kind of like career's over.
Yeah.
Me,
Facts, yeah, yo.
I would have rather sat a little longer, because I was only in there for a year. I would have sat a little longer than coming out to what the internet do to you.
Yeah, because Gunna,
that's just my opinion.
But as bad as things looked for Gunna, he would eventually return to what he does best, and went on to drop his album A Gift and a Curse. Suddenly forced to stand on his own 2 feet without any guest verses, the record landed at number 3 and delivers some major hits like Fuck You Mean and Back to the Moon. Named Complex's #1 album of the entire year, Gunna is now heading out on his Bittersweet tour. As a result, he's become one of the only rappers ever to be accused of snitching and turn it into a victory lap. Through What Happened to the YSL Artist, we maybe see a change in the air for hip-hop, where consumers aren't caring quite as much about these allegations as they once were. But even then, Gunna's fate is an incredibly rare case rather than a norm, and as long as the streets play a role in hip-hop, that'll probably always be how it goes.
This is Drake and Taylor Swift, and this is a McDonald's Happy Meal.
There's not many things.
This is Drake and Taylor Swift, and this is a
There's not many things worse that you can do for a rapper quite as much about these allegations as they once were.
Yeah, shout out to Luesta. Yeah, man. Honestly, I feel like the only reason he kind of like yeah, his case is really different.
The record landed at number 3 and delivers some major hits like Fuck You Mean and Back to the Moon. Named Complex's #1 album of the entire year, Gunna is now heading out on his Bittersweet tour. As a result, he's become one of the only rappers ever to be accused of snitching and turn it into a victory lap. Through What Happened to the YSL Artist, we maybe see a change in the air for hip-hop, where consumers aren't caring quite as much about these allegations as they once were. But even then, Gunna's fate is an incredibly rare case rather than a norm, and as long as the streets play a role in hip-hop, that'll probably always be how it goes.
This is Drake and Taylor Swift, and this is a McDonald's.
There's not many things worse that you can do for a rapper's career than to be caught telling. In a genre that's so intertwined with street code, fans are quick to write off anyone who is discovered to be an informant and not living ever to be accused of snitching and turn it into a. Based upon how angered people were by the idea that he betrayed Thugger, it really looked like there might be no way back for him. In fact, many OGs thought it was a wrap.
The film in court came out and, you know, of course his lawyer wrote that. He didn't write that. His lawyer probably wrote that. But now in these days, when you got the camera, it just look like, you know, they're gonna say, you pushing please. We ain't fucking with Gunna. Because, I mean, in this business...
No, this was like the consensus for a lot of people, man.
If you turn into a rat, it's kind of like career's over.
That's how it was.
I would have rather sat a little longer, because I was only in there for a year. I would have sat a little longer than coming out to what the internet do to you.
Yeah, because Gunna,
that's just my opinion.
But as bad as things looked for Gunna, he would eventually return to what he does best, and went on to drop his album A Gift and a Curse. Suddenly forced to stand on his own 2 feet without any guest verses, the record landed at number 3 and delivers some major hits like Fuck You Mean and Back to the Moon. Named Complex.
Yeah, you couldn't escape Fuck You Mean, honestly. You could not escape that record.
His #1 album of the entire year, Gunna is now heading out on his Bittersweet tour. As a result, he's become one of the only rappers ever to be accused of snitching and turn it into a victory lap.
Yeah, man. Like, honestly, Gunna, the reason why his case is so different is because when he came out, he didn't antagonize anybody. He didn't, and the thing is, his music is a lot better than a lot of those other people that snitch, you know? And like I always say, the normal, the casual, they're not gonna do their citizens, they're not gonna care if you snitch or not, as long as the music is fire and you're not building up that reputation of like what 6ix9ine did, you know? Where now just the whole industry hates you, now nobody messes with you. Like, Gunna played it super smart. Gunna got out, got super low. You really didn't see him too much. He focused on music, and then he focused on like basically transforming his life, bro. If you look at him, the dude has slimmed down. The dude looks a lot better, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, there's a reason why people are calling him a clone now and stuff like that, because of the transformation he had. So seems like he's focused on like that. He's focused on getting his life in order and check. Like I said earlier, it's gonna be exciting to see what happens. Like if Thugger, you know, it's looking like that case is gonna fall apart. It's looking like that case is gonna fall apart soon and be ruled a mistrial. Who knows? I'm not a lawyer, but the way the prosecution's been dropping the ball and the judge and some of the stuff they've been doing seems like it's going that way. So it's gonna be just interesting to see them together. And like honestly, that last album, like I said again, was not really it. I feel like Thug being out and being able to like obviously don't do nothing that's gonna incriminate you. But I feel like, yo, dude, if he has the proper time to put a project together, it's gonna be fire. But yeah, I feel like Gunna is the only one that really was a success afterwards because of how he handled it. You know? Yeah, don't go around antagonizing people, man. You'll end up like 6ix9ine. Crazy.